In the bustling city of Urban Heights, real estate was more than just an industry, it was a way of life. The city's skyline shimmered with glass towers, each a monument to ambition and architectural innovation. At the heart of this dynamic world was Liam Carter, a visionary real estate developer with dreams of reshaping the cityscape. Liam started his journey as a young agent in the crowded streets of downtown, selling modest apartments to first-time buyers. But his keen eye for undervalued properties and his ability to predict emerging trends quickly set him apart. After years of hard work, he founded Skyline Empire, a real estate firm with a mission to redefine luxury living. One day, Liam stumbled upon an abandoned industrial district on the outskirts of the city. To most, it was just a wasteland of crumbling warehouses and overgrown weeds. To Liam, it was a blank canvas with endless potential. He envisioned Skyline Square, a mixed-use development that would combine luxury residences, retail spaces, and green parks to create a thriving community. However, the project was not without challenges. The local council hesitated to approve rezoning the land, and environmental groups opposed the project, fearing it would disrupt the natural ecosystem. Investors were skeptical about the district's potential, leaving Liam to fight an uphill battle. Undeterred, Liam held community meetings to address concerns, promising sustainable development and economic benefits. He partnered with environmental architects to design energy-efficient buildings and include extensive green spaces. Slowly but surely, he won over the council, the residents, and even the investors. After 5 years of relentless effort, Skyline Square opened its doors. The district transformed into a vibrant hub of life, blending modern architecture with nature. Its success catapulted Skyline Empire into the spotlight, making Liam one of the most influential figures in real estate. But for Liam, it was never about the money or fame. He often strolled through Skyline Square, watching families picnic in the parks, entrepreneurs thrive in the retail spaces, and residents enjoying their homes. These moments reminded him why he started his journey, to create spaces where people could truly live, not just exist. And so, Urban Heights continued to grow, but its most iconic landmark was not just another skyscraper. It was the vision of a man who believed in building more than buildings. He built dreams. As Skyline Square flourished, Liam's vision expanded. He saw potential in places others overlooked, forgotten neighborhoods, abandoned factories, and even derelict train stations. His approach was simple yet revolutionary, to bring life back to these forgotten spaces, not by erasing their history, but by weaving it into the future. One of his most ambitious projects was Heritage Towers, a residential complex built around an old train station. Instead of demolishing the station, Liam integrated it into the design. The station's grand hall became a communal space with cafes and art galleries celebrating the city's rich history. Heritage Towers became a symbol of how progress and preservation could coexist. However, success brought new challenges. Competitors began to mimic Liam's strategies, often cutting corners to maximize profits. The media started questioning whether Skyline Empire could maintain its integrity under pressure. Even Liam's closest allies began to doubt whether his ideals could survive in a world driven by profit margins. But Liam remained steadfast. One evening, during a board meeting where investors demanded faster returns, Liam stood up and addressed the room. "Real estate isn't just about concrete and steel," he said firmly. "It's about the lives we touch, the memories we create, and the legacy we leave behind. If we lose sight of that, we lose everything that makes this work meaningful." His words resonated deeply, and the board agreed to support his vision, even if it meant slower but more sustainable growth. Years later, Urban Heights became a model city for balanced development, blending innovation, sustainability, and community spirit. Liam, now a mentor to young developers, often shared his mantra, "Build for people, not profits. When you create something meaningful, the rewards will follow naturally." His legacy lived on in every project he touched, every community he uplifted, and every life he inspired. Liam Carter wasn't just a real estate mogul. He was a builder of dreams, proving that in the right hands, real estate could change the world. In the heart of a bustling city, tucked away on a quiet street, stood a small restaurant called The Little Corner. It wasn't fancy, nor did it boast a Michelin star, but it held something far more valuable: heart. The restaurant was run by Maria, a warm, middle-aged woman with a passion for cooking and a knack for making everyone feel at home. Her recipes were inspired by her grandmother's kitchen in a tiny Mediterranean village. The aroma of freshly baked bread and herbs drifted out of the doors, drawing people in like a magnet. Maria started each morning at 5 a.m., kneading dough and chopping fresh vegetables from the local market. By lunchtime, the place was buzzing. Office workers came for her famous roasted vegetable soup. Students gathered around to share plates of creamy pasta. An elderly neighbor stopped by for her legendary apple pie. But it wasn't just the food that made the little corner special. It was Maria herself. She knew every customer by name, remembered their favorite dishes, and often shared a laugh or a kind word. On particularly cold days, she'd offer a free cup of tea to anyone who looked like they needed it. One evening, a young man named Liam walked into the restaurant. He was new in town and looked lost. Maria greeted him with her signature smile and suggested he try her grandmother's lamb stew. As Liam tasted the dish, his face lit up. "This reminds me of home," he said softly. From that day on, Liam became a regular. Slowly, he shared his story with Maria, how he had moved to the city to pursue his dreams but felt lonely in the crowd. Maria listened, encouraging him and introducing him to other regulars. Over time, Liam found friends and a sense of belonging at the little corner. The restaurant continued to grow, not because of advertisements or social media, but because of the love and community it fostered. People didn't just come to eat, they came to feel connected. Maria's philosophy was simple. A meal is more than food, it's a bridge between people. Years later, the little corner remained the heart of the neighborhood, a place where stories were shared, laughter echoed, and strangers became friends all over a plate of food. As time went on, Maria's small restaurant became a haven for all kinds of people. Artists brought their sketchbooks, finding inspiration in the warm ambiance. Writers sat by the window with a cup of coffee, letting the chatter around them spark new ideas. Even tourists, who stumbled upon the little corner by chance, often left with a story to tell about the cozy restaurant that felt like home. One day, a journalist from a local magazine visited the restaurant. Intrigued by the buzz surrounding the place, he decided to write an article about it. When the piece was published, it highlighted Maria's kindness, her passion for food, and the sense of community she had built. Soon after, the little corner became more popular than ever. Maria received offers to expand her business or open new branches, but she declined them all. "This restaurant isn't just about food," she said. "It's about people, and I don't want to lose that." Instead, Maria used the newfound attention to give back. She started a pay it forward board where customers could pay for a meal in advance for someone in need. The idea quickly caught on, and soon the board was filled with little notes, acts of kindness from strangers to strangers. Years later, Maria decided it was time to pass the torch. She handed the restaurant over to Liam, the young man who had once walked in feeling lost but now felt at home. With Maria's guidance, Liam continued the traditions she had built, ensuring their little corner remained a place of warmth and connection. Maria retired to a small house by the sea, but her legacy lived on in the laughter, the stories, and the meals shared in her little restaurant. And for everyone who passed through its doors, the little corner wasn't just a place to eat, it was a place to belong. Sarah had always dreamed of going to university. Ever since she was a little girl, she imagined herself walking through a beautiful campus, carrying books, and attending lectures that would inspire her to achieve greatness. Finally, the day arrived when her dream became a reality. On the first day, Sarah stepped onto the university grounds, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. The campus was huge, with towering buildings, lush green spaces, and students bustling about. She clutched her schedule tightly, afraid of getting lost. Her first class was in a lecture hall much larger than any classroom she had ever been in. The professor, a kind-looking man with glasses, welcomed the students and began talking about the fascinating world of literature. Sarah's heart swelled with excitement as she realized she was finally part of something much bigger than herself. As weeks turned into months, Sarah discovered that university life wasn't just about academics. She joined a writing club where she met friends who shared her passion for storytelling. Late-night study sessions turned into unforgettable moments of laughter and bonding. She learned to balance her responsibilities and found joy in exploring new hobbies, like painting and photography. Of course, there were challenges, deadlines, exams, and homesickness were all part of the experience, but Sarah learned to overcome them. With perseverance and the support of her new friends, she grew more confident and independent with each passing day. By the end of her first year, Sarah looked back on how much she had grown. University wasn't just a place of learning, it was a place of self-discovery. It was where she found her voice, built lifelong friendships, and started shaping the future she had always dreamed of. As she walked through the campus on her last day of the semester, Sarah smiled. knowing that her university journey had just begun and the best was yet to come. As the second year began, Sarah felt more confident navigating the university life. She knew the shortcuts around campus, recognized familiar faces in the hallways, and had even grown close to her professors. She decided to take on a more challenging course load and applied for a research internship in her field of study. The internship was a turning point for Sarah. Working alongside experienced professionals gave her a glimpse into the real-world applications of her education. It was thrilling yet demanding, as she had to manage her studies and her new responsibilities. But Sarah thrived under pressure, realizing that every challenge was an opportunity to grow. Outside academics, Sarah became a mentor for freshmen, helping them adjust to university life just as others had helped her. She shared tips about time management, finding balance, and overcoming doubts. This role gave her a sense of purpose and pride, knowing she was making a difference in someone else's journey. By her third year, Sarah had truly found her place at the university. She led the writing club she once joined, organized events, and published her first short story in the campus magazine. Her creativity and determination inspired many of her peers, and she was often approached for advice. As graduation approached, Sarah felt a mix of emotions. She was proud of everything she had achieved, but also nostalgic about the countless memories she had made. The friendships, the late-night conversations, the hours spent in the library. And the lessons learned both inside and outside the classroom had all shaped her into the person she had become. On the day of her graduation, Sarah stood on the stage holding her diploma. She looked out at the crowd of smiling faces, her family, friends, and professors who had supported her every step of the way. She realized that while her time at university was coming to an end, her journey was far from over. With a heart full of gratitude and a mind ready for the future, Sarah walked off the stage, ready to face the world and embrace the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Once upon a time, nestled in a quiet valley surrounded by rolling hills, there was a beautiful farm called Green Haven. The farm was owned by an elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, who loved the land and the animals more than anything in the world. Green Haven was no ordinary farm. Rumors spread across the nearby villages that the farm held a magical secret. The crops grew faster than anywhere else, the animals were healthier, and the flowers bloomed in colors no one had ever seen before. One sunny morning, a curious young girl named Emma decided to visit the farm. She had heard the stories and wanted to see the magic for herself. When she arrived, she was greeted warmly by Mrs. Miller, who invited her to help with the daily chores. Emma happily agreed and spent the day feeding the chickens, milking the cows, and watering the vegetables. Everything seemed normal, yet there was something enchanting about the way the animals behaved. The cows mooed in harmony, the chickens clucked to a gentle rhythm, and even the plants seemed to sway as if dancing to an invisible tune. Later that afternoon, Mr. Miller invited Emma to plant some seeds in a small patch of soil near the barn. "These seeds are special," he said with a wink. Emma carefully planted them, watered the soil, and waited. To her amazement, within minutes, tiny green sprouts began to appear. "How is this possible?" Emma gasped. Mr. Miller smiled and said, "The secret lies not in the seeds, but in the love and care we give to everything on this farm. When you treat the land and its creatures with kindness, it gives back more than you can imagine." Emma returned home that evening, her heart full of wonder. From that day on, she visited Greenhaven often, learning not only about farming, but also about the magic of compassion and care. Years later, when Emma grew up and started her own farm, she carried the lessons of Greenhaven with her. Her land too flourished with vibrant crops and happy animals, proving that kindness and love were the true magic of the world. And so, the story of the magical farm lived on, inspiring generations to care for the earth and its creatures with open hearts. Years passed, and Greenhaven became a place of inspiration for the entire valley. Farmers from nearby villages visited to learn the Miller's secrets, and they were always welcomed with open arms. Emma, now an accomplished farmer herself, often returned to visit her mentors. One day, Mr. Miller called Emma aside and handed her a small, worn-out book. "This is for you," he said with a gentle smile. "It holds the knowledge we've gathered over the years, not just about farming, but about life." Emma opened the book and found pages filled with handwritten notes, sketches of plants and animals, and wise sayings about respect for nature. One phrase stood out: "When you work with nature, not against it, the earth becomes your greatest ally." The years were catching up to Mr. and Mrs. Miller, And soon they decided it was time to pass Greenhaven on to someone who would cherish it as they had. To Emma's surprise, they asked her to take over. "We've seen your heart," Mrs. Miller said. "You've learned everything this farm has to teach, and we know you'll keep its magic alive." Emma accepted with tears of gratitude. She moved into the farmhouse, bringing her own family, and continued the Miller's legacy. Under her care, the farm grew even more beautiful. She invited schoolchildren to visit, teaching them about farming and the importance of living in harmony with nature. As the years rolled by, Emma's farm became known far and wide. People said it was as if the very soil carried the love and wisdom of all who had worked it before. Emma always smiled at this and replied, "That's because it does." And so the story of Greenhaven continued, a timeless reminder that the greatest magic lies in the love and care we give to the world around us. In a small, peaceful village surrounded by lush, green hills, the villagers eagerly awaited the arrival of the rain every year. The rain was not just water falling from the sky, it was life, hope, and the promise of prosperity. One year, however, the skies remained dry for far longer than usual. The once vibrant fields turned brown, and the streams that flowed through the village dried up. The villagers, worried and desperate, gathered at the village square to discuss what they could do. Among them was a young boy named Liam. He was known for his curiosity and his deep love for nature. Liam loved the sound of the rain tapping on his window, the smell of wet earth, and the sight of droplets clinging to leaves. He couldn't bear to see his village suffer. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Liam climbed to the top of the tallest hill. He carried with him a small, handmade flute that his grandmother had given him. Sitting under the old oak tree, he began to play a melody he had composed, a song for the rain. His music was soft and full of longing, like a prayer to the skies. As he played, the wind seemed to carry his tune far and wide. Birds perched on branches to listen, and the trees swayed gently as if moved by his melody. Hours passed, and Liam played until his fingers ached. Just as he was about to stop, a cool breeze brushed against his face, and the first drop of rain fell on his cheek. He looked up in wonder as dark clouds began to gather, and soon the sky opened up, releasing a gentle, steady rain. The villagers, hearing the sound of rain, rushed outside with joy. They laughed and danced in the streets, grateful for the life-giving water. Liam stood on the hill, his heart full of happiness, knowing he had done something meaningful for his village. From that day on, whenever the rains were late, the villagers would ask Liam to play his flute. Though some believed it was just a coincidence, others were certain that Liam's music had the power to call the rain. And so Liam's melody became a cherished tradition, a reminder of the beauty of nature and the magic of hope. As the years passed, Liam grew older, but his love for nature and his flute never faded. Every rainy season, the villagers would gather around him, sitting in the square or on the hills, listening to his soothing melodies as they awaited the first signs of rain. One year, however, a terrible drought struck the land. The skies stayed clear for months, and the rivers dried completely. Even the strongest crops withered, and the animals struggled to survive. The villagers were filled with despair, and they turned to Liam, begging him to play his flute once more. Liam, though older now, climbed the familiar hill. His steps were slower, but his determination was strong. This time, he didn't just carry his flute, he carried his belief in the connection between humans and nature. Sitting under the same oak tree that had sheltered him for years, he closed his eyes and played. But this time, his melody was different. It was not just a song for rain, it was a song of gratitude for the earth, the skies, and the life they provided. The music echoed across the hills and valleys, reaching places far beyond the village. Animals paused to listen, the leaves rustled in harmony, and even the dry, cracked ground seemed to hum softly with the tune. Hours turned into the night, but Liam played on, pouring all his heart into the melody. Finally, as dawn broke and the first rays of sunlight illuminated the horizon, a cool breeze swept through the village. The air grew heavy, and dark clouds rolled in, spreading across the sky like a blanket. Then with a loud clap of thunder, the heavens opened and rain poured down in torrents. The villagers ran outside, crying tears of relief and joy. They danced in the rain, their faces turned upward, letting the drops wash away their fears and sorrows. Liam, exhausted but content, smiled as he watched his village come back to life. From that day onward, Liam's story became a legend, passed down through generations. The villagers built a small shrine under the oak tree, honoring both Liam and the bond between humans and nature. And though Liam eventually grew too old to play, his flute was placed in the shrine, a symbol of hope and harmony. Even now, when the skies grow dry, the villagers visit the hill standing under the old oak tree to remember Liam's song. They believe that as long as they care for the earth and respect its gifts, the rain will always return, just as it did for the boy who played a melody of hope. Once upon a time, there was a small coastal village where the people lived by the sea. The villagers were mostly fishermen who spent their days on the water, casting their nets and hauling in fish. Among them was a young fisherman named Elias, who had always dreamed of becoming the best fisherman in the village. Every morning, Elias would set out with his father, an old and wise fisherman. Together, they would sail into the deep blue sea where the waters were rich with fish. Elias loved the peacefulness of the ocean, the way the sun sparkled on the waves, and the gentle breeze that filled the sails of their boat. But despite all the beauty around him, Elias was determined to catch the biggest fish, the one that everyone talked about, the legendary golden fish that was said to live in the deepest part of the sea. One day, Elias decided to go out alone. He felt ready to take on the challenge. He sailed farther than ever before, past the familiar fishing spots, deeper into the unknown. Hours passed, and the sea began to grow rougher. The sky darkened and the wind picked up. But Elias pressed on, determined to catch the golden fish. As the storm raged around him, Elias thought he saw something glimmering beneath the waves. His heart raced. He knew this could be the moment he had been waiting for. With all his strength, he cast his net into the deep water, hoping to catch the elusive fish. Suddenly, there was a tug, the boat rocked, and the sea seemed to come alive. Elias pulled with all his might, and after what felt like an eternity, he finally hauled the catch into the boat. But instead of the golden fish he had imagined, Elias found an old, wise turtle, its shell glimmering like gold. The turtle looked at Elias with kind eyes and said, "Young fisherman, you sought the golden fish, but what you have caught is something far more valuable. The ocean holds many treasures, but patience and respect for its creatures are the true riches." Elias realized then that the sea had taught him a lesson. It wasn't about catching the biggest fish or proving himself. It was about living in harmony with nature and respecting the gifts it provided. From that day on, Elias returned to his village not with a legendary fish, but with a new understanding of the sea. He shared his story with the villagers, and together they learned that sometimes the greatest catches are the ones that teach us the most. And so Elias continued to fish, but now with a heart full of gratitude for the ocean, its creatures, and the lessons they offered. As the years passed, Elias became known not just as a skilled fisherman, but as a protector of the sea. He taught the villagers how to fish responsibly, ensuring they only took what they needed and left the rest for future generations. The once depleting waters around the village began to thrive again, filled with life and beauty. Elias also kept visiting the old turtle from time to time. Whenever he sailed far out to sea, he would look for the golden shimmer of its shell. The turtle became his guide, offering wisdom and reminding him of the balance that must be kept between man and nature. One day, as Elias was teaching a group of young villagers how to cast their nets, a boy asked him, "Chua, do you regret not catching the golden fish?" Elias smiled and looked out at the sparkling sea. "The golden fish was never about the catch," he said. "It was about the journey, the lessons, and understanding that we are a part of this great ocean, not its masters. The sea gives to us, and in return we must give back by protecting it." The boy nodded, inspired by Elias's words, and from that day forward, the villagers embraced a new way of living. They stopped chasing after riches and instead celebrated the simple joys the sea provided: a fresh catch, a stunning sunset, and the endless waves that connected them to something greater than themselves. Elias grew older, and though his hair turned grey, his love for the sea never faded. He often sat by the shore, watching the boats return home, the laughter of children, and the harmony his village had achieved. In his heart, he knew the golden fish was not a myth or a creature to be caught. It was the wisdom, peace, and gratitude he had found within himself. And so the village by the sea flourished, and Elias's story became a legend, passed down through generations as a reminder to respect the ocean and cherish the treasures it provides. Once upon a time, in a small village in Eastern Europe, there lived a young man named Alex. He dreamed of a better life, filled with opportunities and adventures. He had heard stories about a distant land called America, a place where people from all over the world came to chase their dreams. Inspired by tales of freedom and prosperity, Alex decided to leave everything behind and embark on a journey to the land of opportunity. After weeks of traveling across seas and borders, Alex finally arrived in New York City. The towering skyscrapers, bustling streets, and colorful diversity amazed him. But life was not as easy as he had imagined. He struggled to find a job, faced language barriers, and often felt homesick. However, Alex never gave up. He believed in the American spirit of hard work and determination. Over time, Alex found a job in a small bakery. He worked day and night, learning new skills and improving his English. His dedication caught the attention of the bakery owner, Mr. Johnson, who admired Alex's passion and offered him a partnership. Together, they expanded the bakery, turning it into one of the most popular spots in the neighborhood. Years passed and Alex became a successful businessman, but more importantly, he became part of a community that welcomed people from all walks of life. He met friends from different cultures, celebrated new traditions, and even started his own family. Alex's story is just one of many in the history of America, a land built by dreamers, hard workers, and people who believed in the power of hope. His journey reminded everyone that the American dream isn't just about wealth, it's about courage, perseverance, and the freedom to create your own path. And so Alex's dream lived on, inspiring future generations to believe that in America, anything is possible. As Alex grew older, he often sat by the window of his cozy home, watching the bustling streets of New York City. The same city that once felt overwhelming had now become a part of him, a place where his dreams had taken root and flourished. But Alex knew his story wasn't just about his own success. It was about the lessons he had learned along the way. One day, his young granddaughter, Emily, sat beside him and asked, "Grandpa, how did you become so successful?" Alex smiled warmly, his eyes reflecting years of hard work and determination. "Success isn't about money, Emily," he said softly. "It's about never giving up, even when things are hard. It's about believing in yourself when no one else does. And most importantly, it's about kindness, helping others as you climb your own mountain." Inspired by her grandfather's words, Emily decided to follow in his footsteps. But her dream was different. She wanted to become a doctor to help people in need. Encouraged by Alex's story, she studied hard, faced challenges with courage, and never let failure stop her. Years later, Emily became a doctor working in a busy hospital where she saved lives every day. She treated patients from all over the world, showing them the same kindness and hope her grandfather had shown to others. At Alex's 90th birthday, surrounded by family and friends, Emily stood up to give a toast. "My grandfather taught me that the American dream isn't about where you come from, it's about where you're going." His story lives in all of us, reminding us that dreams have no borders and hope has no limits. The room filled with applause, but Alex simply smiled, proud not of his own achievements, but of the legacy he had created. A legacy of resilience, kindness, and the unshakable belief that in America, dreams never die. And so the story continued, passed down from generation to generation, proving that the true spirit of America lives not just in history books, but in the hearts of those who dare to dream. In the small town of Riverton, where dusty streets and old brick buildings painted the landscape, basketball wasn't just a game, it was a way of life. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the sound of bouncing balls echoed from the cracked concrete courts in the heart of town. Kids played with worn-out sneakers, rusty hoops, and dreams bigger than the town itself. Among those kids was a boy named Jason Carter. At 13, Jason was shorter than most of his friends, with wild curly hair and a fire in his eyes that never faded. While others played for fun, Jason played with purpose. His father, a former high school basketball star whose dreams were crushed by an injury, had taught Jason everything he knew about the game. They'd spend hours practicing in their driveway even when it rained. "It's not about how tall you are," his father would say. "It's about how big your heart is." Jason took those words to heart. He wasn't the fastest, the tallest, or the strongest, but he had something no one else did: determination. He woke up before dawn to practice, shot hundreds of free throws until his arms ached, and watched professional games, studying every move, every pass, every play. By the time Jason reached high school, he was still underestimated. His small stature made coaches doubt him, and many of his teammates overlooked him. But Jason never let that stop him. During a crucial game against Riverton's biggest rival, the team was down by 10 points with just 5 minutes left. Jason's coach hesitated, but finally gave him a chance to play. The moment Jason stepped onto the court, everything changed. His quick footwork, sharp passes, and fearless shots shocked everyone. He darted through defenders, made impossible layups, and even hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to win the game. The crowd erupted that night. Jason Carter wasn't just a small kid from Riverton, he was a rising star. Word spread fast. Jason led his team to victory after victory, breaking records and earning a scholarship to a prestigious college. But success wasn't easy. College basketball was tougher, the players faster, and the competition fiercer. There were days Jason felt like quitting, overwhelmed by self-doubt and exhaustion. But he remembered his father's words and he pushed through. In his final year, Jason's team made it to the national championship. The stadium was packed, the lights blinding, and the pressure overwhelming. The game was intense, with both teams fighting for every point. In the final seconds, with the score tied, Jason had the ball. The crowd held its breath as he dodged defenders, jumped, and released the ball. Time seemed to slow as it soared through the air. The crowd exploded with cheers. Jason had done it. He had led his team to victory. But for Jason, it wasn't just about the championship. It was about the journey, the struggles, and the lessons learned along the way. Years later, Jason became a professional basketball player, inspiring millions with his story. He never forgot where he came from. He returned to Riverton, rebuilt the old basketball courts, and started a youth program to help kids chase their dreams, just like he did. Jason's legacy wasn't just about points scored or games won. It was about heart, perseverance, and the belief that no dream is too big if you're willing to fight for it. Jason Carter's name soon became known, not just in Riverton, but around the world. His skill on the court was undeniable, but what truly set him apart was his resilience and leadership. Despite the fame, the endorsements, and the bright lights of professional arenas, Jason remained humble. He knew that basketball was more than just a game, it was a platform to inspire, to teach, and to give back. After winning his first professional championship, Jason stood on the podium, holding the trophy high. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, but when asked about his success, Jason simply said, "This isn't just my victory, it belongs to every kid who's ever been told they're too small, too slow, or not good enough. It belongs to Riverton, to my family, and to every dreamer out there." But life wasn't always smooth. During his third season, Jason faced his biggest challenge yet. A devastating injury during a crucial playoff game left him with a torn ligament. Doctors weren't sure if he'd ever play at the same level again. The media speculated about his career being over. Fans were heartbroken. Lying in the hospital bed, Jason stared at the ceiling, his mind racing with doubt. For the first time, fear crept into his heart. Not fear of failure, but fear of losing the very thing that had defined him. But then he remembered the long talks with his father, the early mornings on the cracked Riverton court, and the fire that had always burned inside him. "It's not about how you fall," he whispered to himself. "It's about how you rise." Jason threw himself into recovery with the same passion he'd always had for basketball. The process was grueling. Endless physical therapy sessions, painful exercises, and moments where progress seemed invisible. But Jason never gave up. He pushed through every setback, fueled by the memory of his younger self, the boy who believed anything was possible. After nearly a year, Jason made his comeback. His first game back was in Riverton, where his team played an exhibition match to support his youth program. The arena was packed with people from all walks of life, from kids holding signs that read, "Welcome back, Jason," and older fans wearing his jersey with pride. When Jason stepped onto the court, the crowd erupted. But this time, it wasn't just about his talent. It was about his story, the story of a kid from a small town who rose, fell, and rose again. The game was intense, but Jason played with heart, scoring the winning basket with just seconds left on the clock. The crowd went wild, but as the final buzzer echoed, Jason didn't raise his hands in triumph. Instead, he walked to the center of the court, knelt down, and touched the floor. A silent thank you to the game that had given him everything. After retiring from professional basketball, Jason dedicated his life to coaching and mentoring young athletes. His Carter Academy became a beacon of hope for kids worldwide, teaching not just basketball skills, but life lessons about resilience, teamwork, and courage. In the end, Jason Carter's legacy wasn't just written in record books or championship banners. It lived in the hearts of every kid who believed in themselves because of his story. Greatness, Jason often said, isn't about how high you can jump or how many points you score. It's about how many lives you touch along the way. In the heart of an ancient forest, a river flowed like a silver ribbon, winding through the trees and whispering secrets to the wind. By day, the river was a path of light, reflecting the golden sun and hosting birds and animals that came to drink from its cool waters. But it was at night that the river truly awakened. The people of the nearby village spoke of the river with reverence, for they believed it held magic beneath its surface. They told stories of spirits that danced on the water and of voices that echoed in the stillness of the night. Many had seen strange lights glimmering just above the surface, flickering like stars that had fallen from the sky. One such believer was a young girl named Alara. She had always been drawn to the river, especially when the moon was full. Her grandmother often warned her, saying, "The river belongs to the night. It holds memories older than time itself." But Alara was curious, and curiosity is stronger than fear. One evening, when the sky was a deep indigo and the stars shone like scattered diamonds, Alara made her way to the riverbank. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming jasmine. She sat by the water, listening to its murmurs, trying to understand the language it spoke. Then something extraordinary happened. The surface of the river rippled, though there was no wind. A soft glow began to rise from the water, forming the shape of a woman draped in flowing silver robes. Her eyes were dark like the endless sky, and her voice was as soft as the rustling leaves. "You are not afraid?" the woman observed, tilting her head. Alara swallowed, but did not look away. "Who are you?" she asked. "I am the spirit of this river," the woman said. "I have seen empires rise and fall, lovers meet and part, the world change and remain the same. The night is my companion, for she understands the language of whispers." Alara's heart pounded with both fear and wonder. "Why do you appear to me?" "Because you listen," the spirit replied. "Few hear the stories of the river anymore." "But your heart is open." Alara felt a deep sadness in the spirit's voice. "What do you want me to do?" "Remember," the spirit said, "tell others of what you have seen. Keep the river's stories alive so it is never forgotten." Alara nodded solemnly, and as quickly as she had appeared, the spirit dissolved into mist, merging once more with the flowing water. From that night on, Alara never stopped telling the tales of the river and the night. Some laughed, some listened, but all felt a strange pull toward the water, as if something unseen called to them. And so the river's whispers lived on, carried in the voices of those who still believed in magic, and beneath the moon's watchful eye, the river continued to flow eternal and full of secrets. Years passed, and Alara grew from a curious girl into a wise woman. She never left the village, for she felt bound to the river and the stories it carried. The people came to respect her as a storyteller, a guardian of old whispers, and a keeper of the river's magic. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned to velvet, Alara sat once more by the water's edge. Her hair, now streaked with silver, shimmered under the soft glow of the moon. She closed her eyes and listened. The river still whispered, but its voice had changed. It was sadder now, quieter, as if struggling to be heard. She understood why. The village had grown, and with it the people's faith in old magic had faded. They no longer paused to listen to the river. The waters, once clear as glass, had become clouded with time, burdened by neglect. Alara's heart ached. She had done as the spirit had asked. She had told the stories she had remembered, but it was not enough. The river needed more than words. It needed devotion, belief, and care. Determined, she stood and walked into the water. It was colder than she remembered, as if distant from the warmth of the world. As she waded deeper, she whispered, "I still listen, I still remember." A ripple spread across the surface, then another. From the depths, the spirit of the river emerged once more, but she was different now. Her silver robes were dim, her luminous presence weakened. "Alara," the spirit said, her voice barely above a breath, "the river is fading." Alara swallowed back tears. "How can I save it? The river and the night are bound together. When the people forget the stories, the night grows silent and the river loses its light. You are my last hope." Alara knew then what she had to do. That night, she called upon the villagers, urging them to gather by the river. Many came, though skepticism flickered in their eyes. They had heard her stories, but they had never truly believed. She raised her hands and spoke, her voice carrying through the cool night air. "This river is not just water, it is life, it is memory. It has watched over us for generations, but now it is weak. If we do not listen, if we do not remember, it will be lost forever." A hush fell over the crowd. The wind stirred, rustling the trees, and in that moment something shifted. The villagers knelt by the river, dipping their hands into its depths, feeling the pulse of something ancient. One by one they whispered their own stories, their own memories, their own prayers. The river listened, and slowly its glow returned. The spirit of the river standing beside Alara smiled. "You have done it," she whispered. "The night will remember, the river will live," and so it was. From that day forward, the people of the village never forgot the river's whispers. They cared for its waters, they listened to its voice, and under the watchful eyes of the night, they continued to tell its stories and the river flowed on, eternal, luminous, and full of secrets. In the year 1943, as the world burned in the flames of World War II, a young soldier named William Carter found himself stationed in the dense forests of France. He was a simple man from Ohio, drafted into a war he never wished to fight. Each night, under the pale moonlight, he would write letters to his beloved wife, Eleanor, back home. "My dearest Eleanor," he wrote one evening, "the war grows darker with each passing day. The men around me are weary, their eyes hollow with fear and loss. I find solace only in the thought of your smile, your warm embrace waiting for me when this madness ends." The battlefield was a cruel and merciless place. William had seen friends fall beside him, their lives snatched away in an instant. He had seen villages reduced to ashes, the laughter of children replaced by the cries of the wounded. He knew he was lucky to still be breathing, but he wondered how much longer that luck would last. One cold December night, William's unit received orders to advance on a heavily fortified German position. The mission was dangerous, nearly suicidal, yet as a soldier he had no choice but to obey. Before leaving, he wrote what would become his final letter. "My love," he wrote, "if this letter reaches you, it means I did not make it home. But do not grieve for me, for I have lived with love in my heart. Remember me not as a soldier, but as the man who adored you with every breath. If fate allows, we shall meet again beyond the veil of this world." The battle was fierce. William fought with every ounce of strength he had, but in the chaos, he was struck by enemy fire. As he lay on the cold ground, his breath shallow, he clutched his last letter, whispering Eleanor's name one last time before darkness consumed him. Months later, Eleanor received the letter. Tears streamed down her face as she read the words of her beloved. She held the paper close to her heart, vowing never to forget the man who had given everything for a world he would never see again. Decades passed, but William's letters remained carefully preserved in a wooden box, a testament to love, sacrifice, and the echoes of a war that had stolen too many lives. Years passed, and Eleanor lived with William's memory etched into her heart. She never remarried, choosing instead to dedicate her life to preserving the letters he had written. Every year, on the anniversary of his death, she would sit by the window, read his final words, and whisper a prayer for the man she had loved and lost. As time moved forward, the world changed. The war ended, nations rebuilt, and new generations were born, unaware of the sacrifices made before them. But for Eleanor, the war had never truly ended. It lived in the silence of her empty home, in the echoes of a voice that once called her name, in the feel of paper aged by time, yet still holding the essence of love. In 1995, as Eleanor grew old and frail, she made a decision. She donated William's letters to a war museum, hoping that his words would remind future generations of the cost of war and the depth of love that could survive even the darkest of times. One day, a young historian named James Mitchell came across the letters. He was captivated by William's words, by the raw emotion woven into each line. Inspired, he decided to write a book about the letters, telling the story of a soldier who had fought not for glory, but for love. The book became widely known, touching the hearts of many. People from all over the world read about William and Eleanor, about their devotion and sacrifice. Schools began teaching their story, and veterans who had once been forgotten found solace in knowing that their experiences would not be lost to history. Eleanor lived long enough to see the book published. On her final day, she held the first copy in her hands, running her fingers over the words that carried William's name. With a peaceful smile, she whispered, "You are remembered, my love." And as she closed her eyes for the last time, she could almost feel his arms around her, welcoming her home at last. In the vast expanse of the North American continent, where towering mountains kissed the skies and endless plains stretched beyond the horizon, a dream was born, a dream of freedom, opportunity, and unity. This is the story of America, not just a land, but an idea that echoed through time. The story begins in the 1600s when brave explorers and settlers crossed treacherous oceans, driven by hope and a longing for a better life. They arrived on the shores of a wild, untamed land where native tribes had lived for centuries in harmony with nature. These settlers from England, France, Spain, and other distant lands brought their cultures, languages, and traditions, laying the foundation for what would become a melting pot of diversity. In the bustling streets of Boston, the air was thick with unrest. By the mid-1700s, the colonists, tired of unfair taxes and distant rule, began to dream of independence. One crisp December night in 1773, a group of men disguised as Mohawk Indians boarded British ships and threw crates of tea into the harbor. The Boston Tea Party became a symbol of resistance, igniting the flames of revolution. The Revolutionary War, fought between 1775 and 1783, was a brutal and challenging conflict. General George Washington, a man of unwavering determination, led the Continental Army through harsh winters and bloody battles. Against all odds, the colonists emerged victorious, and in 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed, proclaiming that all men are created equal and endowed with unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As the new nation grew, so did its challenges. The 19th century saw America expanding westward, driven by the belief in manifest destiny, the idea that the nation was destined to stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Pioneers, cowboys, and gold seekers ventured into the wild frontier, while Native American tribes were tragically displaced from their ancestral lands. In the midst of this expansion, a dark shadow loomed: slavery. The tension erupted into the Civil War in 1861, a devastating conflict that tested the nation's very soul. President Abraham Lincoln's leadership and the sacrifices of countless soldiers ultimately preserved the Union and ended slavery, but the scars of the war lingered. The southern states, reliant on enslaved labor for their cotton plantations, clashed with the northern states that sought to abolish the inhumane practice. The dawn of the 20th century brought industrialization and innovation. Skyscrapers pierced the skies of New York City, and Henry Ford's assembly lines revolutionized manufacturing. Immigrants from around the world arrived at Ellis Island seeking the American dream, a promise that hard work could lead to success regardless of one's background. However, the 20th century also brought immense challenges. The Great Depression of the 1930s left millions unemployed and hungry, testing the resilience of the American spirit. Just as the nation began to recover, World War II erupted, pulling America into a global conflict against tyranny. The bravery of American soldiers fighting in distant lands and the efforts of those on the home front led to the eventual victory of the Allied forces. Post-war America saw unparalleled economic growth, but also social upheaval. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., sought to end racial segregation and ensure equality for all Americans. Their peaceful protests and unwavering courage brought about significant changes, though the struggle for true equality continues to this day. As the 21st century dawned, America faced new challenges: terrorism, economic crises, and political divisions. Yet, the nation's core ideals of freedom, democracy, and opportunity endured. From Silicon Valley's technological innovations to Hollywood's cultural influence, America's impact on the world remained profound. Today, America stands as a complex tapestry of cultures, ideas, and histories. Its cities bustle with life, its landscapes inspire awe, and its people continue to dream, innovate, and strive for a better future. The story of America is not just one of triumphs and hardships, but of hope. A hope that no matter the challenges, the pursuit of liberty and justice will always prevail. In every corner of this vast land, from the quiet farms of the Midwest to the vibrant streets of Los Angeles, the echoes of liberty ring loud and clear. And as long as there are dreamers and doers, the American story will continue to be written one chapter at a time. As the new millennium unfolded, America found itself at a crossroads. Events of September 11th, 2001 shook the nation to its core. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, symbols of economic power and global influence, crumbled in the heart of New York City. The tragedy left an indelible mark on the American psyche, leading to a war on terrorism that stretched across the globe. Yet, amidst the turmoil, America's spirit of innovation and resilience shone through. The early 2000s witnessed rapid technological advancements that reshaped the world. Companies like Apple, Google, and Facebook revolutionized communication, entertainment, and commerce. Silicon Valley became the epicenter of global technology, attracting the brightest minds from every corner of the planet. The iPhone, launched in 2007, not only transformed the tech industry, but also how people interacted with the world around them. As the 2010s progressed, America faced new challenges. Climate change became an urgent concern as natural disasters, hurricanes, wildfires, and floods ravaged communities from coast to coast. Activists like Greta Thunberg and movements like Fridays for Future inspired millions to demand action, while scientists and innovators worked tirelessly to develop sustainable solutions. Amid these challenges, America's cultural influence remained strong. Hollywood continued to produce films and television shows that captivated global audiences. Music from American artists topped international charts, and sports icons like Serena Williams, LeBron James, and Tom Brady inspired millions with their talent and perseverance. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 brought unprecedented challenges, testing the resilience of every American. The virus claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, overwhelmed healthcare systems, and brought the global economy to a standstill. Yet, in the face of adversity, scientists, many of them American, developed vaccines in record time. Communities came together supporting frontline workers, small businesses, and those in need. The future of America, like its past, is uncertain yet full of potential. Advances in artificial intelligence, space exploration, and renewable energy promise to shape the next chapter of the American story. Companies like SpaceX aim to take humans to Mars, while American scientists work on breakthroughs in medicine, technology, and environmental sustainability. The American dream, though often questioned, continues to inspire millions. Immigrants still arrive at its shores, seeking opportunities and a better life. Entrepreneurs, artists, and activists push the boundaries of what is possible, while everyday citizens strive to make their communities stronger, more inclusive, and more prosperous. America's story is one of contradictions, of great triumphs and deep struggles, of unity and division, of innovation and tradition. Yet, it is also a story of hope, where the echoes of liberty, justice, and opportunity ring louder than any challenge. As the sun sets over the Grand Canyon, rises over the Statue of Liberty, and shines on the fields of the Midwest, one truth remains: America's story is far from over. Its next chapter is being written by the dreamers, the fighters, and the believers who, despite all odds, dare to envision a brighter future. And so the echoes of liberty continue to resonate, not just across the land, but in the hearts of all who dare to dream. Lena had always felt a deep connection to the ocean. Every summer, she spent hours sitting on the shore, listening to the waves and watching the endless horizon. But this summer was different. She felt drawn to the sea in a way she couldn't explain. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, Lena decided to take a swim. She dove into the cool, salty water and let the waves carry her further from the shore. Suddenly, she heard a soft whisper, almost like a song calling her name. Curious and unafraid, Lena followed the sound. As she swam deeper, she discovered a hidden world beneath the waves, vibrant coral reefs, shimmering fish, and ancient ruins that seemed untouched by time. In the heart of the ruins, Lena met a mystical creature, half human and half fish with glowing blue eyes. "I am Nera," the creature said, "guardian of the ocean. We have watched you for years, Lena. Your love for the sea is pure." Nera explained that the ocean was in danger. Pollution and human carelessness were destroying its beauty. "We need someone to speak for us," Nera pleaded. "Will you help?" Without hesitation, Lena agreed. When she returned to the surface, she was no longer just a girl who loved the ocean. She was its protector. She began organizing beach cleanups, raising awareness, and inspiring others to care for the sea. Years passed and the ocean began to heal. Every time Lena stood by the shore, she could still hear the soft whisper of the waves, reminding her that she was never alone. As time went on, Lena's efforts grew beyond her small town. Her passion for protecting the ocean inspired people around the world. She traveled to distant shores, teaching children and adults about the importance of keeping the seas clean and safe. One day, Lena received an invitation to speak at an international conference on ocean conservation. Nervous but determined, she stood in front of scientists, leaders, and activists. She spoke not just with facts, but with emotion, sharing her love for the ocean and the voice she had once heard beneath the waves. Her words moved the audience, many promised to take action, and soon new laws were passed to reduce plastic waste and protect marine life. Lena felt proud, but deep inside, she longed to see Nera again, to share what had been accomplished. That summer, Lena returned to the same beach where her journey began. She swam far into the ocean, hoping to hear the familiar whisper. After hours in the water, she felt a gentle touch on her shoulder. Turning around, she saw Nera smiling warmly. "You've done well, Lena," Nera said softly. "The ocean is grateful, and so am I." Lena smiled, but she knew there was still more to do. "I'll never stop," she promised. Nera nodded. "And will always be with you." As Lena swam back to the shore, she felt a deep sense of peace. The ocean's whisper was no longer a call for help. It was a song of gratitude and hope. And so Lena continued her mission, knowing that every wave carried her message across the world. The following year, Lena embarked on a new journey, sailing across the ocean to explore remote islands and hidden underwater treasures. She wanted to see more of the ocean she had promised to protect and learn from the communities living closest to it. Her first stop was a tiny island in the Pacific, where the villagers shared stories of their ancestors who lived in harmony with the sea. An elder named Tui told Lena about a legendary underwater cave, said to be the heart of the ocean's magic. Many have searched for it, he warned, but only those with a true heart for the ocean can find it. Intrigued, Lena set out to find the cave. With Tui's guidance, she dived into the crystal clear waters and swam through coral reefs and kelp forests. After hours of searching, she stumbled upon a narrow passage leading into darkness. Gathering her courage, Lena swam through it and found herself in a breathtaking cavern illuminated by glowing sea crystals. In the center of the cave was a giant pearl pulsing with light. As Lena approached, Naira appeared once more. "This is the heart of the ocean," Naira explained. "It holds the balance of life in the sea, but its power is weakening because of human actions." Lena felt a surge of determination. "What can I do to help?" Naira handed her a shimmering conch shell. "This is the ocean's voice. Blow it whenever the ocean is in danger, and we will come to your aid." Lena returned to the surface, her mission clearer than ever. With the conch shell by her side, she traveled from coast to coast, warning people about the ocean's fragile state. Each time a threat arose, an oil spill, illegal fishing, or pollution, Lena blew the conch, and ocean guardians appeared to help her fight for the sea's survival. Her efforts brought hope, but one day Lena faced her greatest challenge. A massive company planned to build a factory near a coral reef, threatening to destroy it. Despite protests, no one listened. With no other option, Lena blew the conch with all her strength. To her surprise, not only did Nira and the Ocean Guardians arrive, but thousands of people from all over the world joined her cause. Together, they stood strong, forcing the company to change its plans and protect the reef. Lena knew her journey would never truly end, but she also knew she was never alone. Every wave, every ripple in the water reminded her that the ocean's whisper would always be with her. And so, the girl who loved the sea became a legend, the protector whose heart beat in harmony with the ocean's endless song. In the heart of an ancient forest, hidden behind towering trees and lush greenery, there was a majestic waterfall known as Whispering Falls. The villagers believed it held a secret, but no one dared to venture too close, for they feared the unknown. One day, a curious young girl named Alara decided to discover the truth. Armed with courage and curiosity, she followed the sound of rushing water deep into the forest. After hours of walking, she finally stood before the breathtaking waterfall. Its sparkling waters shimmered under the sunlight, and the mist formed rainbows in the air. As Alara approached, she noticed something unusual, a soft whisper coming from behind the cascading water. Carefully, she stepped through the waterfall and found herself in a hidden cave. Inside, she discovered ancient carvings on the walls, telling the story of the forest's guardian spirit who protected nature's balance. Suddenly, a glowing figure appeared before her. It was the spirit of the waterfall, who had been waiting for someone brave enough to find it. The spirit revealed that the forest's magic was fading, and only someone with a pure heart could restore it. Lara promised to help. She returned to the village and shared the forest's story, encouraging everyone to protect nature. With time, the villagers planted more trees, cleaned the rivers, and respected the wildlife. Slowly, the forest's magic returned, and Whispering Falls continued to whisper its secrets to those who listened with an open heart. From that day on, Ilara became known as the Guardian of the Falls, and her story lived on for generations. Years passed, and Ilara grew into a wise young woman. She often visited Whispering Falls, where the spirit of the waterfall guided her. She learned the language of the birds, the whispers of the wind, and the secrets hidden in every leaf and stone. One day, a great drought struck the land. Rivers dried up, crops withered, and the villagers grew desperate. They turned to Ilara for help, hoping she could speak to the waterfall's spirit once more. Ilara hurried to Whispering Falls, but to her shock, the waterfall was no longer flowing. The once powerful stream had turned into a mere trickle. She stepped into the hidden cave, but the glowing spirit was weak and fading. "The balance is broken," the spirit whispered. "Far beyond the forest, a great dam has blocked the river's flow. If it is not destroyed, the forest and all who depend on it will perish." Determined to save her home, Ilara set out on a dangerous journey. She crossed deserts, climbed mountains, and navigated treacherous paths until she reached the dam. But guarding it was a powerful sorcerer who had built the dam to steal the river's magic for himself. "I will not let you destroy my creation," the sorcerer hissed. "The river's power is mine." Alara, undaunted, challenged the sorcerer to a battle of wits and magic. She called upon the strength of the forest, the wisdom of the ancient trees, and the purity of her heart. The sorcerer, blinded by greed, underestimated her. With a final burst of energy, Alara shattered the dam, releasing the river's flow once more. The water rushed back to the forest, reviving the land and restoring Whispering Falls to its former glory. Defeated, the sorcerer vanished, and Alara returned home as a hero. The waterfall's spirit, now stronger than ever, blessed Alara, granting her the ability to communicate with nature forever. Alara spent the rest of her life protecting the forest, teaching future generations the importance of harmony with nature. And even long after she was gone, the whispers of Whispering Falls carried her story through the ages, reminding everyone that even the smallest voice could bring great change.